Hello and welcome back to the Bright Founders Talk podcast from Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Chris and today's guest is someone who has obtained an abundance of experience in software engineering and is the co-founder of Risi. Ricardo Fayet, welcome to the pod. How are you today?
Very well. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Perfect. Pleasure to have you. So, quick 5 questions like we always do. What's the best way for you to start the day?
Like either walk with a dog or just an espresso. That'll be enough to wake me up.
Okay, nothing too heavy, just something pretty light to get you going.
Yeah, like that way. I mean, I can spend 20 minutes having an espresso and reading and just relaxing before the day starts. But yeah, it's a question of preference when it comes to coffee. But yeah, either that or walk with the dog. But a good 20, 30 minutes of like not working before starting the day are important for me at least.
Okay, and a very early riser as well? You're up no,
Nope,
a bit later?
I'm afraid I'm not. No, definitely later.
Fair enough. Each their own. I'm the same. What's your favorite way to relax away from any kind of screen, away from any kind of tech?
I think sports probably. So I'm lucky enough to live on an island, so I go paddleboarding fairly often whenever the sea's calm enough. Otherwise, bike riding, running, or that walk with the dog I mentioned, anything that takes me out of the house. Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts in Portugal are you based, by the way?
I'm in Spain. I'm in Ibiza.
Oh, okay. All right. So there's lots of nature to enjoy there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And what do you listen to or read that inspires you in business?
Yeah, I don't read. I mean, I stopped reading nonfiction a while ago, just because I don't enjoy it as much as fiction. I think there's a lot of things you can learn business-wise or life-wise, or whatever, in fiction. I'll say that to learn about specific topics, I'll look for blog posts probably. Run a good old Google search, read a few blog posts about a topic, and then try to learn as much by myself as I can, rather than reading nonfiction. But that's a personal preference. I know that, nonfiction books inspire a lot of other people. So you need to find what kind of works and inspires you.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. So you're from Spain. I just wonder what your kind of experiences or your experiences are in the world of business, whether that's now in Ibiza, as well as you live in mainland Spain as well, or previously?
Yeah, I've lived in Madrid, I've lived in Paris, I've lived in London, and I started working right after university, more or less, on Risi. So I don't have much of a background before that. And yeah, since then we started Risi in London, and I've since been able to move away from London and come to Ibiza. So yeah, don't have a ton of business background aside from starting Risi around 8-9 years ago.
Okay, well, I suppose with Risi, the company you co-founded, what's the experience that you've seen with business in general then, in terms of, I suppose, different cultures? You have to interact with different cultures and how they deal with business. So what's your experience, seeing other businesses, whether that's in Ibiza or in Spain or in London, let's say?
We're lucky at Risi because we've always been a distributed company and we've always hired people from everywhere. So we've got a good mix of cultures and nationalities within the team across more or less all continents. But it's true that coming from Spain in the beginning and trying to raise funds and build a business in London, there was a small cultural clash in the beginning with the British culture, because we tend to be a lot more direct, I think, in Spain or Mediterranean countries, whereas UK people are a lot less direct, to put it that way. So when they were telling us, it's not too bad, we thought, okay, it's good, right? But then we learned that not too bad means it's actually not good. And it's fantastic means I don't necessarily care about it. So you learn about those things sometimes at your own expense. But yeah, there are definitely more cultural differences than I would have expected between countries that are so close to one another, and where people travel around. Like, we've got a ton of British people here in Spain, and a lot of Spanish people who go to the UK. So I didn't expect those cultural differences to be so strong, but there they are, and it makes life a little bit more fun as well sometimes.
Yeah, I suppose. It's a nice way to put it. In terms of talking about the UK, you said you started the business in London.
Yeah.
So just on a sort of political sense, how was the situation with Brexit, with the UK leaving? Did that make quite difficult to continue or not?
Not really. We established a company back when the UK was in the European Union. We even got a grant from the European Union, Horizon 2020. Obviously before the UK left the EU. When it left, when Brexit happened, when the decision for Brexit happened, we're already considering leaving London. Several of the founders. So I'll come back to Spain, for example. There's still one of us living in the UK, but like getting a permit or residency wasn't really hard. And the company has always had, as I said, like employees a little bit all over the world. So that hasn't changed much for us in terms of the company. We also don't deal with any physical products. So we don't have like taxes or shipping or stuff like that that could have impacted us. So we're fairly lucky in that sense. But we're still, on a personal level, happy to move away from the UK following that decision, basically.
Yeah, like many other businesses, unfortunately. So what did you, going back to your studies, because you said you started RESI you didn't really dive into the world of business too much. So what did you study at university? Was that sort of related to what you do now?
Yeah, I studied, I did Master's of Science in Management, I think it's called. So kind of, business studies. And the last year was focused on entrepreneurship. And that started the last 2 years. But I'd already started RESI before that time during the gap year. So I kind of had to juggle the last year of like entrepreneurship studies with RESI, which wasn't always super simple, but yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't attribute a ton of like my career to that master's, honestly. Though I'm sure it has played more of a role than I care to admit.
So how did the idea come about with the company?
It was a friend of mine, Emmanuel, who had traveled to Canada during his gap year and had learned about the world of self-publishing. So basically authors releasing their books on their own, bypassing traditional publishers. So you can just, if you've written a book, you can just upload the file to Amazon and get it published, basically. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into publishing a book. Like usually there's people editing it, there's people formatting the text so it looks good everywhere. There's people designing the cover, there's people taking care of the marketing, etc. So his question was like, who does all of that now if authors are self-publishing? And at the same time, it was during the rise of these early freelancer platforms like Upwork, Odesk back then, freelancer.com, Fiverr, etc. And so he had this idea of creating a marketplace specifically for publishing books, which out of all the ideas that I'd heard during my time at business school, because everyone had an idea for business back then, it was by far the best one, in my opinion. So we started working on it. We found 2 founders, designer, the CTO, developer, and we started raising funds. And yeah, the idea hasn't really changed that much since. We've built a marketplace offering curated freelance services for publishing.
Okay. Do you feel like the traditional form of the old style of publishers, where I suppose it's a lot harder to access, do you feel like that's becoming outdated, or is it just you're offering a different type of avenue for authors or writers?
That's a little bit of both. I think they're becoming outdated in certain ways, but I don't think they're going to disappear, in the sense that there's still a lot of people who just want to write and then hand it off to their agent, who then hands it off to a publisher. Big publishers do have more reach in terms of physical distribution. So if you want to get into brick and mortar bookstores, you kind of need one of these big publishers. So what we're starting to see now is authors who self-publish with certain success, so who sell like millions of copies, and either ebook or print on demand, or just like sell print through Amazon. then they strike deals with these traditional publishers where the traditional publishers are just going to publish their hardback or paperbacks and take care of the print distribution. So the authors still retain their rights for the ebook and the audiobook, which they can sell direct. And then they still get the reach into bookstores and the visibility that a traditional publisher would offer. So it's a little bit how I would kind of envision the future, where traditional publishers have a lot less hold than they have now, but still play an important role for stuff that you can't really do on your own.
I see. In terms of, like you said before about the company being very international, how do you create a nice sort of working atmosphere? Do you look for particular individuals? I don't know, sort of, they have to be young, or I don't know, they have to be interested in certain things. They have to read. How do you sort of get the balance right?
I think the team's fairly young, but it wasn't necessarily like something we look for as a criterion. Probably it attracted younger people in the beginning, though we've got a lot more of a mix now. I think by itself, the fact that the job, is remote, and we make that very clear, attracts a certain kind of people. So we've had a few people in the past who, they were interested in the remote aspect, but it turns out that they really needed an office and they needed more socialization and like seeing people every day. So they realized that, and they left after a while. But usually people kind of have a sense of whether they can work remote or not, and we trust them on that. And in terms of like creating a good culture, a good workplace, like we're very hands off. So we don't do as founders a lot of like, we don't organize events or like virtual chats, or we organize a bi-weekly kind of meeting with across all teams. So kind of a very big meeting with everyone in the company, where every department goes over what they've done over the last couple of weeks, just so that everyone is aware of what's happening across the company. So we think that's important. And then each team will have, its own daily stand-ups among them, so that there's communication every day. But aside from that, we leave it to the employees to create the events they want. So we've got a really big team in London, for example. If they want to meet and get a drink or work from one co-working space or pub for a day, then obviously they can do that. We'll pay for it. If someone wants to put together a virtual quiz on Hangouts, that's also something we'll obviously support. And what we do organize is like a yearly team retreat where we can see everyone face to face, because we think that kind of being in physical contact at least once a year is important. And it also allows us to meet other people, like everyone in the team.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Well, not hard, but it's definitely different nowadays with these companies that are fully remote. How do you sort of create that bond within the team, so you work together a little bit better and so on. So yeah, that's nice. Normally the meetups or the events are in Spain, or it doesn't matter, it could be anywhere.
No, the retreats. So we've done, I think, four. So there's been a couple in Italy, and there's been three. There's been one in Bulgaria, a couple in Italy, and one in Portugal. So the first three were ski retreats, and then the last one was more of a wine estate in Portugal, so something different.
In terms of the culture with employees, was it the same with your co-founders when you were looking for people to partner up with? Were you looking for a certain type of person, one that would challenge you, or one that would complement you, or be very different from you?
We were looking more for skills, I would say, than personalities. Obviously, the personalities needed to match, like it needed to be someone we could get on with. But we're looking specifically for like a really good designer and a really good developer, a really good backend developer. And then we were very lucky that these people we found fairly randomly through the internet became really good friends. And yeah, we get along really well. So for the first 4 years of the company, we lived 3 founders together in the same flat in London. So Emmanuel and I, who knew each other previously, and also Matt, our designer. And yeah, we became really good friends from there. So it happened to be someone we could live with, basically. But yeah, it was more due to chance than anything else.
Okay, interesting. And have there been any challenges with the business over the years that you've had to overcome, and how did you do that?
Yeah, I think in the early days, everything's a challenge, which makes it exciting, of course, but everything's a challenge. Like you need to release your first MVP, you need to get traction, you need to, raise funds. You've got a short runway usually. So yeah, there were challenges. There were challenges with investors, some investors who, thought we had to add someone senior on top of us in the team. So basically replace us as like chief officers. We were fairly young. We were maybe 22, 23 when we started. So I can, in retrospect, maybe understand that. But obviously at the time, it didn't feel very nice. So we didn't do it. Yeah, there were challenges in growing. In the beginning, we didn't really know what we were doing marketing-wise. So it took us a while to get structured and to find kind of our channels for acquiring customers and growing. So yeah, definitely a lot of challenges, but it's part of what makes the journey exciting. And thankfully, we've been able to overcome most of them, if not all. And the company's going well. So yeah.
Brilliant. So you just kind of been learning on the go, just picking up new things. Like you said, marketing. It's not something you sort of studied or anything. It's just, okay, how can we work it out?
It is definitely something I studied, but as I said, I don't, attribute any of my career to what I studied. I think in business schools, you learn about a lot of stuff that you aren't really able to implement afterwards. So like the only hard skills I learned during business school were on the accounting and financial side of things. And that's definitely helped to understand, the company accounts and like more the legal and financial side of things rather than the marketing side of things.
Okay. So there's not really any link between businesses while you're studying an MBA and so on. There's not really any sort of, not internships, but there's no sort of practical aspects to the course, or very few.
There were few. I think you would rely more on internships. So if I did an internship at a startup in marketing or growth, I would have probably picked up some things before starting our own company. But I didn't started right away. But you kind of learn as you go, right? I picked up at that time. I did pick up a few books on marketing and read them, especially like startup marketing, like Traction was a pretty good one back then, at least.
How do you stay up to date with the changes in your field? Like, do you follow people on X or Twitter, as it was formerly referred to, or podcasts or YouTube? How do you stay up to date?
Yeah, I try to stay mostly up to date with developments in our specific industry. So yeah, I feel like I'm probably the one who knows more about the self-publishing industry, the self-publishing scene in the company. So that's what I try to stay up to date with. I do that through Facebook mostly because I'm in a lot of, Facebook groups. I basically only use Facebook for business and staying in touch with authors. And that's pretty effective. And obviously I've got friends who follow in the industry and we comment on developments, etc. But then from the marketing side of things, I think it's people in our team whose job it is to, stay up to date with new developments. So we've got an SEO expert, for example, because SEO is a very big channel for us. And he will be the one looking at, the latest core updates, what's happened, new best practices in SEO. And he's got a list of experts whose stuff he reads and listens to, etc. And so we rely on him to kind of pass on the information to us afterwards. So we kind of, want and expect everyone in the team to stay up to date in their respective fields. And I would say that mine is probably, the self-publishing scene.
Is that, because nowadays the big trend is AI, has that affected the business anyway? Have you sort of taken it on board, or are you planning to?
No, that's a good question. It's definitely a big topic, and I expect it will change a lot of things in the future. So far, we haven't seen any impact in terms of our business on the marketplace. We do want to develop other revenue streams because we can see a future where, a portion of authors goes to AI tools for their editing or design instead of professionals. I don't think the results ever are going to be quite the same, quite as professional. I do see AI tools being used by these professionals to enhance or accelerate their processes, basically. So I don't see a complete newbie author using an AI tool to design a cover that's going to really look good and attract the right readers. But I can definitely see amazing designers who currently charge, thousands of dollars for covers, leveraging AI tools and training them on their style to create covers in the future at a cheaper price for certain clients, because the AI speeds up a bunch of their processes, so it takes less of their time. So I can see that than the first one.
It always needs a bit of a human touch. Cannot be fully AI.
It feels like it, yeah. At least right now, it definitely needs a human touch. And we're talking a lot about prompting engineers, right, for the future. So that's basically the human touch. And that needs to be untrained on something, probably something created by humans. So yeah, I don't think the human element's going to get out of it. And I think writing is a very human thing, writing and reading. It's not going to be AIs reading, books in the future. I mean, they ingest them, but they don't really read for pleasure. So I think it's an industry that is very prone to being disrupted by AI, but at the same time might be quite resistant in its core. Like writing a book and reading a book are still very, very human activities that aren't going to remain that.
Just a final question. If you could trade places with any other business owner or in any other business, which one would you choose and why?
As a trade places indefinitely or for a week?
No, just to learn new skills, just kind of see. So for a short period of time, not permanently.
It's a good question. I would probably switch with someone in a marketing position for a big SaaS business, just to learn that kind of things. Because we're going to launch some software subscription in the future, and the near future. So it'd be good to learn, what's works in terms of marketing for all the softwares out there, what their processes are, how they report on things, etc. So that would be probably, my choice more from a skills perspective.
All right, interesting, brilliant. Well, I want to thank you for your time today, Ricardo, and wish you all the best with Reezy.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me, and all the best to you too.